Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and today's a very special day in my family. It's called Witchmas. Now, for those of you who have been with me long enough, you probably remember me telling the reason, or if you read my descriptive area, the reason that I began this channel was for my descendants. And it was primarily because at one point in my adult life, I became very interested in learning more about one of my ancestors, my great-grandmother. But unfortunately, by the time she came on my radar, all my parents, my parents and my grandparents were all deceased, and I had no knowledge of her except for bits and pieces of memory of stories that were told to me, which is why I became interested in learning more about her. But by the time I really wanted to know more about her, they were all gone. So I said to myself, wow, that's so sad. And I determined that for my own descendants, my grandchildren, and then maybe their children, that I would create a wealth of information for them, because I figured the internet is something that will last forever, more than if something I write in a journal or something that somebody could throw away. But the internet will hang out for a while. So I decided to create a channel whereby my descendants could just tune in and see me, and to hear what I was about and the things that I did. Okay, so why am I here today telling you this? Well, descendants. I started celebrating a day called Witchmas. Now, I know a lot of people around the world celebrate Witchmas, and I think people celebrate it at different times. The way Witchmas came to me, I believe it was in 2019. I had a dream, which I wrote down, and so I'm going to read it verbatim so that I get it right. But on September 22nd in 2019, I had a dream in which I was lost in a crowd looking for my daughter. I was confused. I wasn't sure where I was, or where I was supposed to go, or what I was supposed to do. Eventually, an event coordinator told me she'd been looking for me. And when she found me, she explained to me that it was Witchmas, and that I was supposed to join the other witches. And I was like, well, how do I know where the witches are, or where am I supposed to go? And she pointed in a direction, and she said, I'll know the witches in the crowd because all the real witches wear red. So I was like, okay. And then I was eventually reunited with my daughter. So I woke up and I called my daughter up. I was like, I just had this dream, September 22nd, 2019. And I told her all about it. And she was like, well, that's really cool, Mom. We ought to celebrate Witchmas every year on September 22nd. So we got to thinking about it a little bit, and it occurred to me because the next day, the 23rd, happened to be the autumnal equinox. So I thought maybe Witchmas was supposed to be around the autumnal equinox. So we always celebrated Witchmas. We tried to celebrate it on the 22nd if we could, but if she was working, or if one of us wasn't available on the 22nd, then the alternate date would always be on whatever day the equinox happened to fall on. And we created, what we decided to do was have a theme every year, and do craft-related activities. I think like the first year we made necklaces for each other. So we made necklaces. We just made craft items. One year we harvested the lavender in my garden, and then we made oils from the harvest from the year before. And last year we made pendulums, and 4 of those 5 pendulums are pendulums that I made last year. And she made a few of them over here that she gave me, and I gave her some of mine too. So we always make something, we have a theme, and then we make it, and it's always a craft related to who we are. And last year was the first year that her daughter was old enough to, hang out with us, and we had her pull a card for the first time, which was really kind of cute. And even during the COVID years when we couldn't be together, we did like Zoom phone calls or, FaceTime kind of phone calls where we both were participating with a certain theme, and we did crafts related to that theme. But on the years that we could be together, we were together. Now this year, we were not able to be together because my daughter's work schedule didn't allow it. But we decided, well, we're going to do it on September 22nd rather than, and I'm not sure if today is the actual equinox or not for 2024. This is the real interesting thing. As I mentioned, we always kind of thought, well, maybe it was because it was the autumnal equinox that was coinciding with when I had the dream. So we figured that it was the autumnal equinox, which was the reason for Witchmas, right? But the dream was on September 22nd. So we always wear red. That's the number one requirement, is we have to wear red on Witchmas. Because the message in the dream was all the real witches wear red. So last year, I needed something red. I just didn't have anything red, So I went on Amazon to find something red, and the only thing I found that was red, that, the thing that interested me was 1692. They missed one. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. I wasn't even sure. I wasn't really tuned into witches, I knew the story of the witches in Salem and things like that, but I never really tuned into it, So I thought, that's interesting. I wonder what that's about. So I looked up 1692 and I realized that was the year that the witches, the last of the witches were persecuted for being witches. The last 8 were killed. So I was like, And I thought, let me look up the date. What date was it in 1692? Well, hand on heart, the date was September 22nd, 1692. I never saw that coming. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So it wasn't the autumnal equinox that was the important thing for Witchmas. It was September 22nd, which it was the day that I actually had the dream. So once we understood that, then we understood that September 22nd was the day, and that was the day we were intended to celebrate Witchmas. Okay, so this year my daughter and I can't be together. In the meanwhile, I have a daughter-in-law who is not, who's not one of us. She is one of us. I love her as a daughter. I don't mean that she's not one of us like that. But, my kids recognized me as a witch before I even recognized myself as a witch. I would go out on, every solstice. I would every 6 weeks on, as the seasons would change on the equinox or the solstice, whatever. I would go out and, do a little prayer of thanks for the new season. And I wasn't even formally aware that it was kind of witchy kind of stuff to do. I would do a lot of things that my kids in later years identified as me being kind of witchy. Plus, I always read the cards, and I seem to be there. They would say that I was psychic. I don't know that I am or not. I think I'm just keenly aware of things, and I'm deeply intuitive. But they identify me as psychic. In fact, they are like, they kind of feel like when they're doing something that they ought not to, even though they're adults, they're in their 30s, they'll laugh and they'll say something like, Mom probably knows about this already, that kind of thing. But anyway, so my daughter, because she was raised this way, is intrinsically this way herself, and she's raising her daughter that way too. But my daughter-in-law, of course, she was raised by someone else, and this hasn't been her experience. So I've always been a little nervous. I let her know that we celebrate Witchmas, and I've mentioned it to her, and, do you want to do it? I don't want to push it on her, and during COVID years, we couldn't get together, and then she was pregnant with the baby last year, so she couldn't do it because she was due like the next day practically. But then this year, I thought, my eldest granddaughter, who she has, is old enough now to get involved if she wants to. And so I told my daughter-in-law, I'm like, look, I don't want to be like pushing it on anything on you. But every year, we do celebrate this holiday, and we do things. We have like theme-related activities, and we just have fun. We wear red. You have to wear red, and we just do things. And so this year we decided to do gratitude, and and because now the activities are now involving the children who are now old enough to participate, we came up with an activity for them to do for their first official Witchmas, where they're conscious of what they're doing, to make bracelets. Gratitude is the theme. And so they're small, maybe too small to understand what gratitude means, but they aren't old enough to understand the things that make them happy, like mommy and daddy and friends and things like that. So we bought a bunch of beads. Some have, different colors, and some with letters, and a variety of pipe cleaners and cords. And we decided we were going to make bracelets with them so they can spell out the things that they're grateful for, or the things that make them happy. Meet them where they are. They understand the things that make them happy, and that is gratitude, right? So we decided that was going to be our theme. And my eldest granddaughter with my daughter-in-law will come here today. I'm expecting them any minute to do the activities with me, and we'll undoubtedly take pictures of us in red. And I also have letter cubes because my eldest granddaughter, who's coming over today, is old enough now to start sounding out words. And so one of the activities we'll do is some spell work where we spell out the things that she's grateful for, the things that make her happy. So we're going to spell those things out. So for you descendants who hear through the family grapevine that there was a holiday that great-grandmom celebrated called Witchmas, and you're like, what is it about? Well, this is what it's about. It's about celebrating who we are, or your heritage, by doing meaningful things for that particular day. Pick a theme and wear red. All the real witches wear red. And on Witchmas, and just enjoy yourselves and celebrate yourselves, and just put a day aside to honor yourselves. And I hope this has been very interesting for some of you. Until next time, friends, peace. Stay well, be kind, and do no harm.